Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. My stomach was hurting, so I went to the hospital. There, I saw my fiancé assisting a pregnant woman into the OBGYN department. He was learning about pregnancy for her, and was filled with the joy of becoming a father. When I confronted him, he just frowned and said, "She's pregnant. Why can't you accept her? As long as you turn a blind eye, Mrs. John's position will always be yours." Later, he kneeled in front of me, tears in his eyes, begging me to come back. I waved my wedding ring and said, "Who are you?" At the city hospital, I sat on a bench holding my stomach medicine and test results. Bella handed me a cup of hot water. "It's the weekend. Isn't John with you today?" The warm water eased my stomach. He's been really busy lately, working overtime a lot. After speaking, I neatly took my medication as the doctor ordered. The doctor said my stomach pain was due to irregular eating habits recently. As long as I ate properly, it shouldn't recur. Bella hesitated but still reminded me, "It's not that I don't trust John. Men need to be watched closely." I smiled and patted Bella's shoulder. "I've got it under control." As I lowered my gaze, the smile faded from my face. John and I haven't been in the best place lately. If I say there's nothing wrong, that would be a lie, but if you ask where the problem is, I can't exactly pinpoint it. While I was lost in thought, Bella suddenly exclaimed, "Isn't that John?" Surprised, I followed her gaze. It really was John. He was carefully looking after a woman, more specifically a pregnant woman. The woman wore a loose dress, her belly slightly showing. John looked at her with affection, filled with the joy of becoming a father. The two of them walked, chatting and laughing towards the OBGYN department. I recognized the woman. She was John's junior, Molly. Back in school, she chased after John quite eagerly, but John never looked at her twice. "She's just a young girl. Once the freshness wears off, she won't cling to me." That's what John said to me back then. So what now? What's happening? I don't believe a man would take an unfamiliar woman to a prenatal exam for no reason. John came home at 10 p.m. I sat in the living room with my stomach medicine on the table. He changed shoes by the entrance, carrying a sweet, cloying scent. Since he walked in, it was Molly's perfume. I felt like throwing up. I suddenly remembered what Bella said at the hospital. "Get to the bottom of this. Don't let John fool you. He's likely holding off marriage because of her. He's playing both sides, wasting your youth." My eyes darkened. John came over and kissed the top of my head. Did the hospital visit go well? I stayed silent. John seemed to sense something was off. He looked at the stomach medicine on the table and guiltily glanced at me. "It's my fault for being so busy lately. I'll make it up to you when I have time, okay?" His voice was soft and tender. He leaned in to kiss me, desire evident in his eyes. When his lips were about to touch mine, I covered his mouth. "Yeah, you've been really busy. Busy with prenatal. Exams, busy becoming a dad, huh?" John's dark eyes flickered. "Rose, what do you mean?" I calmly spoke. "I saw everything at the hospital today. Molly, is that your child?" Seeing that scene today made my legs go weak. I couldn't believe my own eyes. I wish someone would tell me it wasn't John, that I was mistaken, that John was still the same, never changed. But the truth was in front of me, undeniable. At this point, I confronted John directly. I felt a lot of relief all of a sudden. I think I already knew the answer. There was a long silence in the room when John spoke again. He acknowledged it. "That child is mine." One sentence, and I almost burst into tears that I had been holding back. "When did this start between you two? Were you planning to hide this from me forever? Or were you just waiting for the right time to come clean?" I spoke lightly, almost floating. John grabbed my hand, his eyes red. "Listen, it was really an accident with her. Remember that business trip? I drank too much. Molly found me and took me back to the hotel. It just happened." I laughed. "It just happened. Isn't that convenient? Easy. And then you fell for her." John was silent, looking into my eyes. "Rose, it was my mistake. It's got nothing to do with Molly. Don't go after her." I let out a bitter laugh, tears rolling down my face. They tasted so bitter thinking back. John and I had been together for almost 7 or 8 years, through all of college and his startup journey. I always thought John knew me best in this world, that he would be the first to shield me from danger. Now that protector of mine was gone. He became Molly's shield. I wiped my tears away. I won't go after her, don't worry. John, let's end this engagement. I looked at the engagement ring on my finger, feeling nothing but bitterness. After all these years with him, this year John finally proposed to me. Before, I didn't really care about the whole ceremonial aspect. I thought John and I would always get married, no rush. So I stayed by his side for so many years without complaint. I even felt a bit smug about his proposal, thinking everything was finally settled. Turns out our engagement was the last glow before a dying relationship. John and I were done for. I took off the ring and quietly placed it on the table. I wanted to get up, but John, in a fit of rage, pushed me back onto the chair. He glared at me with red eyes. What does calling off the engagement mean, Rose? Are you calling off the wedding just over something like this? What do all these years mean to you? What did you take me for? I just found it funny John thought getting someone else pregnant was no biggie. Leaving his sick fiancée for another woman's doctor's appointment was no problem for him. But me making a fuss was big trouble. It was just disgusting. I brushed off his hand lightly. Guess I was unlucky. Guess I was blind to have met you. Dealing with this is bad enough. Now you want me to share a husband with Molly too? Get real, John, that's not happening. John irritably tugged at his tie, like I was being unreasonable. Reasonable, Rose, what's your problem now? She's pregnant. Why can't you just accept her? If you turn a blind eye, you'll always be Mrs. John. You want to get married, right? We can get the license tomorrow and have the wedding at the end of the month. Anything you want, I can give you. She won't affect your status, understand? John thought Molly was the trigger for everything. Actually, she wasn't. I'm not sure when it started, but goodbye kisses in the morning stopped. During dinner, John began checking the time absent-mindedly. Even when he went to the bathroom at night, he took his phone with him. These changes didn't go unnoticed. I just forced myself to accept the truth that our feelings had faded. After all, who can stay in love forever? A week ago, I accidentally saw his browsing history on his computer. What foods can pregnant women not eat? What are some delicious and nutritious recipes for pregnant women? Tips for keeping pregnant women happy? At that time, I thought he was preparing for our wedding plans. It turns out it was all for Molly. I didn't want to say anything more. I pushed John away and left the house. Downstairs, Bella peeked out from the flashy Ken. Seeing my state, she already had a clue. Spinning her phone in hand, she smirked. Let's go for a drink. If John can have fun, we can outplay him. I chuckled, feeling much better instantly. For so many years, loving John had become a shackle I put on myself. Maybe losing feels more relieving than holding on. If you can't hold sand, just let it go. In the neon-lit bar, I sipped drink after drink at the counter. Bella danced close with a young guy on the dance floor, occasionally throwing a flirty glance my way. Being single is great. No worries about anything. Before John, I wasn't like this either. Back then, I was just like Bella, a wild and playful girl. Later, John said he didn't like that. He said girls should be calm and elegant to be lovable. Since then, my nightlife never went past 10 p.m. All crop tops and spaghetti strap dresses were out of my life. Even interactions with the opposite sex. I was extremely cautious, constantly reminding myself I had a boyfriend. But now, he likes Molly, a girl so much like my younger self, almost a copy of young me. Laughing through my tears, how ironic. I leaned on the counter, tipping over an empty bottle of Armand de Brignac. When it rains, it pours. I drunkenly called the server. A steady magnetic voice spoke next to me, sounding like a G major chord, quite pleasant. Try this. Brandy's smoother. A slender hand pushed a glass over. I looked up at the man. He wore a black jacket. His toweled hair highlighted his sharp features. He seemed familiar, like I'd seen him somewhere. Are you hitting on me? I glanced at him unapologetically and took his drink for a sip. Thanks. What do you want to drink? It's on me. He seemed a bit surprised and looked at me with a probing gaze. Rose, you really don't remember me? An acquaintance? I squinted. My gaze fell back on him, then it clicked, Simon. He chuckled and nodded. He's gotten even more handsome. Some since college, exuding a mature charm. No wonder I didn't recognize him right away. Turns out Simon and I used to be in the same club in college. He was a year below me, quite the campus legend. Girls were practically fighting over him. Later, I heard he already had someone in mind. No wonder, someone who didn't date all 4 years. He's either picky or taken. Didn't expect to run into you here. What a coincidence. Simon's dark eyes deepened. Yeah, just got back recently, he said, as if he remembered something. He looked at me. Why are you alone? Where's your boyfriend? I chuckled and lowered my eyes. We broke up. He was quiet for a while, then poured more drink into my glass. You gave up painting for him all those years. Looks like fate has been fair. Not only did it give you a chance, it gave me one too. That last sentence, Simon's voice was low in the noisy bar. I frowned at him. What did you just say? Simon smiled. Nothing. It's getting late. Let me take you home. I glanced over at the dance floor. Bella, who was just dancing, had now vanished. So I had to call her. Clearly, Bella was having a blast drinking and playing games. I told her I was heading home. Bella was worried. Want me to give you a ride? I glanced at the man beside me, who raised an eyebrow back at me. I pursed my lips and said into the phone, no worries. You have fun. Once outside, I leaned against the railing and threw up 3 times. Crying and puking, I ranted about John's rotten behavior. I must have looked a mess. People passing by stared at me like I was crazy. Simon stood quietly beside me, saying nothing. When I was finally done, Simon handed me a tissue and a bottle of water. I accepted them and rinsed my mouth without any fuss. I felt much clearer-headed afterward. The night breeze was chilly and I started to shiver. Simon silently took off his jacket and draped it over me. He looked worried and pained. This is the last time you're crying for him, Rose. This guy isn't worth your tears, understand? Under the dim light, Simon's nose looked a bit red from the cold. Against his fair skin, he looked incredibly handsome. I glanced at him. Sorry for making a fool of myself. He shook his head. You're not the one to blame. The person who hurts a good heart deserves to swallow 1,000 needles. I lowered my eyes, noticing a hair tie on Simon's wrist. Judging by its condition, it was old. The thing is, I used to have one exactly like it. Seeing me staring at his wrist, Simon's face turned pale. He quickly hid it behind his back. I looked at Simon. That's mine, isn't it? With no way out, Simon nodded. Remember our last group dinner before graduation? After the hot pot, you left the hair tie on the table. I took it because you didn't want it. Simon looked nervous and his eyes were cautious, afraid I'd be mad. I asked calmly, why keep it? Do you like me? What other explanation could there be? Simon's face turned red instantly. Seeing no denial, I understood, so Simon did like someone back then, and that someone was me. Why didn't he say anything? It's hard to belly. If he kept it in. Simon sighed, rolling up his sleeves and looking at me. You had a boyfriend? As if that wasn't enough, he added. It was always him. I froze. Right, John and I have been entangled for years, 7 or 8 years. How many of those do you get in a lifetime? I thought our relationship was unbreakable, but it was just a facade. Some relationships rot inside long before you realize. Under the streetlights, Simon looked at me with a mix of passion and restraint. Worried I'd be scared, he silently averted his gaze. Suddenly, I remembered what Bella said. If he can play, we can play harder. An evil thought popped into my head, and I acted on it. Reacting faster than thinking, I leaned up to kiss Simon. Just before touching his lips, Simon turned away. I missed. His voice was hoarse. Rose, this is too fast. We have time. I pouted, noticing Simon's Adam's apple moving uncomfortably. Clearly, he was holding back too. Rebellious as I am, I grabbed his head and kissed him. He let out a sexy grunt. So disobedient. What am I going to do with you? How we got home is lost on me. I just remember Simon carrying me, kissing me as he walked with heated passion. I called his name and Simon responded tirelessly. The next morning, I woke up in Simon's bed, panicked. I checked my clothes, still on, thankfully. So nothing happened. He actually held back. Annoyed, I smacked my head. Just a few drinks and I lost it. In my slippers, I walked to the living room. Simon was cooking porridge in the kitchen. Seeing me, his eyes darkened. Go freshen up and come eat breakfast, he said naturally, with no sign of my awkwardness. Right, even if we had slept together, so what? I'm not going to mourn John for 3 years. On the table were a sandwich and porridge Simon made. I'm heading to work. If you don't mind, stay as long as you like, Simon smiled, his loungewear making him look very behaved. I shook my head. I have a class this afternoon. I had opened an art class, teaching kids with a passion for drawing. They made me feel alive. Simon hesitated but still placed my phone on the table. He called you all night. I gave him my address this morning. He should be here soon. I nodded. Better to handle these things sooner rather than later. Dragging it out hurts everyone. Just then the doorbell rang. I went to open the door, with Simon calmly following behind me. Outside the door, John's eyes were bloodshot. He looked especially scary when he saw me standing with Simon. The veins on his forehead bulged. Without thinking, John came over and grabbed me. Come home with me. I glanced back at Simon and he nodded at me. At that moment, I felt an incredible sense of peace. In the parking garage, John was pulling me quickly. It seemed like he wanted to escape from this place as fast as possible. I shook his hand off fiercely. You're hurting me. John turned around, his dark eyes filled with hurt, anger, and resentment. Rose, you slept at his place last night, didn't you? What did you do? Huh. I looked for you all night, and this is how you repay me. John stepped closer and closer. When he saw the hickey on my neck, he completely lost it. Rose, how dare you? I watched his madness with indifference. It's strange. Just one night and I feel nothing for John anymore. John, if you're sick in the head, you should get treatment. Who I'm with and what I do is none of your business. This clearly touched a nerve for John. His eyes darkened. I advise you not to anger me. He then picked me up and roughly threw me into the passenger seat, driving at breakneck speed. I even suspected John had a death wish. As soon as we got inside, John's lips were all over my neck. It was like he wanted to overpower Simon's scent on me. I barely held back my nausea and pushed him away. Don't touch me. John looked at me in rage. You think I'm dirty? You spent the night with him, didn't you? Check how dirty you are. Before he could finish, I slapped him hard across the face. Cleaner than you, isn't it? Disgusting enough for you? You got Molly pregnant and still want to have your cake and eat it too. John, look in the mirror. Did you really think I couldn't live without you? Do you think you're some kind of king? Am I that desperate for you? The room fell silent. John's eyes were red. Yes, I'm greedy. We've been together for so many years. Loving you has become a habit. He urgently tried to hold my hand. Rose, if you forgive me this time, I'll break up with Molly, okay? I won't dwell on what you did with that man, so don't dwell on me. Let's just live our lives together no matter what. Okay. I laughed coldly, feeling like I didn't even recognize the person in front of me anymore. After so many years with him, I realized he was rotten to the core. So what about Molly? What do you plan to do? John's eyes showed a hint of hesitation. I'll let her have the baby and then give her money to leave. I scoffed and glanced at John. There's no chance for us anymore. On the living room table were all of John's assets. I sat across from him, frowning. What's this supposed to mean? John didn't answer, he just started counting the items one by one. These are the property deeds for our 3 houses, the company's funds and shares, and the cars in the garage. You've been through a lot with me over the years, so you deserve your share. My eyes flickered, not knowing what John was planning. Only if we were married would these be our shared assets. Just giving them up like this, won't you regret it? I suddenly chuckled. So John was trying to force me into marriage with money. But do I really care about that little bit of money? I was with him even when he was broke. Now he thought he could keep me with money. Besides, a few years ago when I held an art exhibition in Paris, I made a fortune. John probably forgot that 2 of those 3 houses are under my name. And in his company, I own 21% of the shares. If I wanted to leave, John couldn't do anything about it. I packed up my things in the bedroom. When it was time to actually leave, I realized all my belongings fit into a single suitcase. I dragged the suitcase to the living room, glancing at John's face. His eyes were filled with suppressed anger. Is it really this serious? See, abusers always think from their own perspective, like John, who always thought this was just a little issue. Why couldn't I forgive him? I didn't want to figure out when exactly this man turned rotten. I just knew I wouldn't keep something rotten. I took a deep breath, taking care, and opening the door, I went downstairs. Simon's car was parked outside and he was standing by it, waiting for me. He was tall, and his long coat made him look especially striking. I walked over and Simon naturally took my suitcase. Congrats on ditching the jerk. I couldn't help but laugh as I watched him put my suitcase in the trunk. Didn't you say you had to work? Why are you here? Simon shrugged helplessly. Afraid he would bully you, so I drove here. If anything went down, I was ready to step in. A warm feeling surged through me. I let Simon take me to the small apartment in the city center. This was a place I bought years ago. Even John didn't know the address. Having been unoccupied for a long time, the place was dusty. Simon took me to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities, then helped me clean up. Thankfully, the apartment wasn't too big, so it wasn't hard to clean. After we finished, Simon and I collapsed on the sofa. I sighed contentedly. Simon's pleasant voice sounded next to me. Having worked as your servant, should we talk about the serious business now? My heart skipped a beat. You kissed me yesterday. That was my first kiss. Rose, I don't care. You have to take responsibility. I sat up with a start, looking at Simon lying next to me. Had he really not dated anyone all these years? Simon's face turned a bit awkward. Being stared at made him blush even more. I sighed helplessly. Sorry, I'm a jerk. Why did I feel like I corrupted an innocent boy? Simon coughed slightly. Jerk? Not quite, but close. My brow twitched, seeing Simon's mischievous grin. You ruined my innocence, so you have to be faithful. What I'm saying is, from today on, can I pursue you? Simon's simple words made my heart race. It had been so long since anyone confessed so straightforwardly. I hesitated for a moment. Simon's eyes dropped lower and lower, and he looked pretty down. Turns out my every move affected him deeply. A breeze slowly blew in from the window. I heard myself say, I'm hard to chase, you know. You'll need to put in extra effort. Hearing this, Simon finally let out a light laugh. All right, whatever you say. Simon had been doing well abroad to expand his market. He now had operations here too. He worked overtime almost every day but still found time for me. Even though this man had never dated before, he sure had endless tricks to win me over. It left me a bit defenseless, but when I coldly rejected him, he looked so pitiful, like a little puppy. It was too cute. On a deep winter day, I walked out of my studio. I saw Simon standing in the snow with a long coat on, holding roses. As I got closer, I saw red roses covered in snowflakes. Simon smiled and said, I've been waiting for you for 20 minutes. 5 girls approached me, about one every 4 minutes. I suggested, you should give the man in front of you a big kiss. If he runs away, I won't be responsible. I burst into laughter and kissed Simon, but he didn't let me off that easily. With passionate lips and tongue, Simon kissed me until I was a bit breathless. A little girl passing by tugged at my dress and curiously asked, What are you doing? I blushed and pulled away from Simon's embrace, hearing his amused chuckle as he said, We're kissing. Kissing? What's kissing? The little girl looked at Simon, a bit puzzled. I pinched Simon's waist hard. What nonsense are you talking about in front of a child? Right then, the little girl's mother hurried over, picked up the girl, and apologized to us. Sorry, she's just a child. You two continue with that, she said as she carried the girl away. I stood there flustered, but Simon, however, was beaming. What do you want for dinner? With this weather? Hot pot, of course. Simon petted my head lovingly. The two shadows on the snowy ground grew farther apart. Simon, you kissed me again. Just a kiss. I didn't expect to run into John and Molly at the hot pot place. Their table was right next to ours. As soon as we walked in, John spotted us. Molly stood up, holding her belly and looking arrogantly at me. She looked so pleased with herself. Simon's hand tightened around my waist. Don't worry, I'm here. I gave him a reassuring look. Molly sized me up and smiled. Didn't expect to see you here. Since you left, John's been treating me even better. I always wanted to thank you. I chuckled coldly and looked over at John approaching us. Is that so? Well, I wish you both the best. John looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting between me and Simon. You two are together? Simon smiled and took my hand. Yes, thanks to your woman here, I almost forgot. I should thank John for the favor of giving up Rose to me. Otherwise, stealing her would have been quite the hassle. Simon shrugged with faux concern. John's face darkened. He wanted to say something, but Molly interrupted, sneering. Are you really a couple? Don't just pick any man off the street to act like your boyfriend just to save face. That woman, emboldened by John's presence, was really getting out of hand. Simon wanted to speak, but I held him back. I slapped Molly so hard that everyone around was shocked. Molly held her face and cried to John. I'm pregnant and she dared to hit me. John, she's bullying me. Hit her back. Simon stepped in front of me. I'd like to see anyone try. John's face darkened further as he glared at me and Simon. Rose, Molly's still young. Why are you picking on her? You know why I'm upset. She knowingly became the other woman. If she doesn't know how to play low, she shouldn't come showing off in front of me. If she does, she should expect a slap. Even the King of Heaven can't save her. I spoke firmly. John knew he was in the wrong and said nothing, but Molly kept crying, drawing attention from the whole restaurant, feeling embarrassed. John finally snapped, crying. That's all you ever do. With that, he left. Molly shot a hateful glare at me and then ran off after John. I glanced at Simon. Seems like Molly isn't doing well. I thought she'd be queen with her pregnancy. Turns out John's pretty cold to her. Simon gently rubbed my hand. Did that hurt? I shook my head. I'm not that fragile. After that scene, I didn't feel like eating there anymore. Simon took me to his place and cooked dinner for me himself. Afterwards, Simon washed the dishes in the kitchen. Bored, I wandered around his place. When I reached his study, I couldn't help but open the door. What I saw stunned me. An entire wall was filled with my paintings. To be exact, they were the ones I sold at my Paris exhibition. All my paintings had sold out, and I was quite proud. Simon had them carefully hung on the wall, even arranged by date. I covered my mouth, tears streaming down my face. Back then, Simon had just finished doing the dishes and was looking for me everywhere. When he finally found me in the study, I was crying my eyes out, holding a painting. What happened? Simon scratched the back of his head in frustration. I guess you found out. Later, I learned that Simon had gone to an art exhibit specifically to buy my paintings. He bought all of them by himself. I stared at him in shock. Are you crazy? Do you know how much money you spent on all those paintings? My paintings aren't even worth that much. Why are you so foolish? Simon walked over and hugged me, gently stroking my hair. To me, your paintings are priceless. John never understood you. He didn't even accompany you to the exhibit. If it were me, I wouldn't have missed such an important moment in your life. I sobbed in his arms. Simon kept kissing my tears, telling me not to cry. He smiled happily. Spending money on my future wife isn't a waste, right? Only I knew that the art exhibit was right after I graduated. Back then, Simon was still a foreign student. How could he have had so much money? Buying my paintings had probably cost him all his savings. He pulled me to the sofa, letting me sit on his lap. Then he opened his phone to show me. On Instagram, there was a single pinned post. Even as slow as I am, I remembered this Instagram account that I once used. Simon started showing me each Instagram message. Your red dress looks great today. Red suits you. I didn't see you wearing dresses after that. Do you not like them, Rose? I saw him make you cry today. If you're so unhappy with him, why don't you leave? I like you so much. Just seeing John gives me goosebumps. Rose, will I never have you in this lifetime? I'm going to study abroad. When I come back, will you already be married? I hope not. I haven't confessed my feelings for you yet. There were thousands of messages. One common thing. Every message had a red exclamation mark. Simon held me. Did you hate me so much back then? I suddenly remembered. Back then, John was jealous of all the men around me. He deleted all unrelated mails from my Instagram. After I stopped using that Instagram account, Simon had used that deleted account to express his longing for me for 7 years. Realizing this, I was crying uncontrollably. I never hated you. You fool, why didn't you tell me you liked me back then? Simon kissed my hand. What if you truly loved him, Rose? I just wanted to see you happy. I kissed Simon on the lips, pushing him down onto the sofa. I pulled at his clothes with all my strength. Simon breathed heavily but still held my hands. Rose, don't tempt me. We're not married yet. I sealed Simon's lips. Simon's will finally collapsed. He kissed me passionately. The room was filled with love. Things moved smoothly for me and Simon. He brought me to his company and proposed to me in front of thousands of employees. Having this kind of connection with someone you love feels amazing, so amazing that I forgot about John. One day, as I was leaving my studio, I ran into John waiting at the door. I hadn't seen him for months. He looked more worn out than before. He hadn't shaved and his dark circles were terrifying. Heard Simon propose to you? I gave him a brief glance, not planning to say much. But John grabbed my hand. His touch disgusted me and I wanted to shake him off. The next second, John knelt before me. Rose, I know I messed up before. Molly's crazy. She uses the kid to keep me from working. I lost several big clients because of her. Now I'm exhausted from her torture. Will you come back and help me? I really need you. I realize now that I love you. Molly was just a stand-in. She'll never measure up to you. I regret it. I'm insanely jealous of you and Simon. I promise I won't mess around anymore. I'll only have you, okay? I laughed coldly. John had some nerve thinking I'd come back just because he did. I'd never seen anyone so full of themselves. People like him are never satisfied, always chasing what they can't have. Once they get it, they don't cherish it. He doesn't love anyone. He just loves the thrill of novelty. Why should I waste my life because of his whims? Kicked him away. I raised my hand, flashing my engagement ring. Sorry, who are you? John tried to crawl back to me, still reaching for my hand. The next second, I was pulled into an embrace. I looked up, it was Simon. His focused eyes met mine. Are you okay? I smiled and nodded. Once Simon was sure I was okay, he turned his eyes to John. John, you're harassing my fiancée. We're getting married soon. If you keep bothering her, you'll face the consequences. John opened his mouth to say something but was ignored by Simon. Simon held me as we left the studio. What do you want for dinner? Candlelight dinner. Okay, I nodded. Anything you make, I'll love. Behind us, John watched as we walked away. This time, he cried miserably. At that very moment, John finally understood what he had lost. He also understood what I meant by it's impossible now. Later, I heard that Molly had complications during childbirth. The baby didn't make it, it was stillborn. Since losing the baby, Molly started to lose her mind a bit. Often grabbed other people's kids on the street thinking they were hers because of this. She had been to the police station quite a few times. John was constantly cleaning up Molly's mess, and he was no longer the ambitious man he used to be. Eventually, the company couldn't keep going and it went bankrupt. After paying off the taxes, John transferred all the remaining assets to me. When Molly found out, she went completely insane. She harassed and insulted me over the phone every day, calling me a homewrecker and saying that I was seducing John despite being engaged. I didn't want the money, but John insisted on giving it to me. He said to consider it compensation for all these years so I can feel a bit better. 1 month later, a shocking incident happened in the city. Molly drugged John and drove them both into the sea. The police spent a week recovering their bodies. Their faces were unrecognizable from being in the water, but forensic tests confirmed it was John and Molly. When I heard the news, Simon and I were deeply shaken. Molly really had lost her mind. Spring came and Simon and I had our wedding as planned. Simon had been preparing for this day for months. As I walked towards him in my wedding dress, Simon suddenly started to cry. He hugged me tightly. I finally get to make you my wife. While we were toasting with friends and family, I received a card from John. The delivery guy said John had prepared it over half a year ago. It simply said, "Sorry. Thank you." Just 6 words, but I understood all the emotions John wanted to convey. Looking at the familiar handwriting on the card, I smiled peacefully with Simon holding my hand. I felt secure. In that moment, the world seemed ordinary. The streets were crowded and the night was bustling. Glasses clinked, hearts connected. I thought Simon came from afar just to share a lifetime with me. He whispered in my ear, "Rose, God gave me the best."